You'll see the codes being applied from the lower right, and you can see how quickly the organism is destroyed. Again, actually, we found that biological cells have crystalline structures in their cellular membrane. That's why the membranes rupture. So that gives you a basic beginning of how it works. Basically, the idea of frequency, everything is frequency, everything. It's made out basically of molecules, and you get smaller and smaller, and certainly we can get into subatomic quantum kinds of things. But basically, electrons and protons are the trick. Protons are energy in motion, we're finding. So when you look at anything, everything is this molecular quality. It has electron, proton, neutrons, we can say. And the thing that keeps molecules together is the polarity, or the magnetism. It's the north pole, south pole, it keeps it together. There are vast spaces, I mean vast spaces between electrons. If one of my professors said, if you take a ping pong ball in a huge living room and you suspend it by a thread from the ceiling, he said that the relative distance between electrons is about the empty space, or the space around that suspended ping pong ball. So if you consider that, it's pretty incredible that we can have anything solid, since most of it is empty space. So why can't you put your hand through your computer? Because of the polarity, or that keeps it together, and everything has a signature. So when we look at our bodies, we look at the bones, the tissues, the muscles, all that makes up a human body, or anything, everything has a specific signature, and that signature is unique to that liquid, that stomach cell, whatever it is. When that frequency changes from toxins or from any numbers of internal or external changes of any kind, what happens is that frequency shifts. And when that frequency shifts, it's not the same. And that's when we identify illness. What the quantum infinity does is that it picks up that difference before you even know it. And you'll find that as you use your quantum infinity, that you'll pick something up on a screen, and you'll find that it says that there's a problem with integumentary, means skin, as I have. And I'm like, my skin is fine. And then 2 days later, there's a little blemish on my skin. And you'll see that over and over and over and over again. I apologize, I don't have a better screensaver here, but it was for lack of, well, just for expedience for this time, we'll just go on. I've got some really great things for you, because what is the history of it? If we look at the history of this whole thing, it really started out way long ago. And, in my field that I've been working in, and what I've got my PhD in, has a lot to do with quantum physics. The whole subatomic, things are either a wave or a particulate, depending on how we use our intention. And intention is a really big part of everything. Also, attention. We can have an intention, and that changes some things to put some things in motion. But when we put our attention on things, we change literally waves to particles or particulates. Einstein referred to that way back just after the 1900s, and he said, man, that's spooky stuff. He said, I refuse to believe that the moon is not there if I'm not paying attention to it. I just can't do that. So it's really interesting, and there's a lot of other fascinating parts of that. However, that's the way it is. So when you, for example, think a negative thought, given the fact that all of these trillions of cells in our bodies have consciousness, according to Dr. Bruce Lipton, every cell in your body has a consciousness of a sort. Every cell in your body is made mostly of what? Water, right? We already know that water changes depending on a lot of things. One of the things I learned from a professor at Stanford University is that they've been studying it only for 10 years, and then they found out how little they know. So when we look at our bodies as being mostly water, and knowing that our frequencies respond to the world externally and internally when we think negative thoughts. What we're doing literally is we are attacking ourselves. Our cells go into a state of protection, which means they stop interacting with their environment. They go into protection. They keep their oxygen. They build up their toxicity. They don't dump their garbage. So no wonder things start to go wrong, given the negativity in the world. It's really remarkable. So what we want to do is we want to notice that and not be the abusive mother, the abusive father to these cellular communities, but start building a sense of camaraderie and being that caring, loving father, caring, loving mother to your own cellular communities. It is a new idea in the world of science, and I can tell you it is profound. So one way to do that is to start using the quantum infinity to correct some of these frequencies. So before we go on, I do want to talk a little bit about stasis. What the principle of stasis is that we want to stay the same. You all know people, and I know people, we all think we're so great and wonderful, and we want to give advice, well-meaning advice, and we do sometimes to ourselves. But do we take it? Do other people take it? Often not. We can make New Year's resolutions, and that's our intention certainly, but sometimes it doesn't work out, we'll say 99.9% of the time. So part of the reason why is we can choose to do something, determine to do something, and move into action, but stasis rears its head and it takes us back to where we were. That's just normal. So with the quantum infinity, one of the things that I've found out have found is that I don't want to balance everything 100%, because when we balance something 100% in that moment, that person has a perfect frequency for what they're working with, but it won't last very long. Why? Because of stasis. Stasis starts inserting itself and pulling that person back, that person's frequency back to what they were before. So a better strategy is to move forward a little bit at a time, 40%, even 50%. And what that does is that it's not a full balancing, but it lasts longer. It allows your cellular communities and those other intelligences in our bodies and around our bodies to get used to what's going on, and that stasis has a chance to kind of shift and move with it. So it stays in place longer. It's really great. So another thing is when we look at treating all related symptoms, and I'll talk about that in a moment, when we use the quantum infinity, it's better to stay specific. The reason why, if you listen to music, there's some notes in music, and the more notes you put into that music, the more muddy it can get. And it's the same thing with frequencies. When you use frequencies, too many of them, it's no longer a harmony, it's more like a cacophony, and it's overwhelming. One of the things I did in the early days of using the quantum infinity, before I found all these wonderful things out, is that I overdid it, and I overbalanced everything in one day, and it was really remarkable, but I couldn't move. It just took my chi or my life energy force, and I could barely get up. It was an amazing experience. So I said to myself, this is not about honoring my body. This is about overwhelming my body. So how can I honor my cellular communities? Those communities, each cell, as I was talking about earlier, I just wanted to say it's really kind of interesting. Not only do they learn, they teach their babies, they remember, and they even gossip about other cells. Little communities of cells will gossip about other cells. So if you look at your body as almost like a universe in and of itself, you then are the mastermind of this incredible galaxy, and every time you're careless with your thoughts or not responsible for your words to yourself or about other people, what you're doing is sending out frequencies that are very damaging, not only to you and your cellular communities, but people around you. All of us have been in parties when somebody will walk in the room and the whole energy drops, or the whole energy rises. It's because of how you're showing up. So that's really, really important. So looking at the quantum infinity, I don't know, Karen, should I show a nice little picture or something? I'll just put this URL thing on here, and we'll get to this in a moment. Let's go down here a little bit more to a real pretty one. There we go. Okay, so what I do want to say is, though, when we look at the screens of the Quantum Infinity, and if you have your Quantum Infinity, you're certainly welcome to look at that as I speak. There are panels that have more than one layer, and I want to talk about that. But specifically, I want to talk about first the emotional profile. So if we go into the emotional profile screen and pull that up, so get into your Quantum Infinity while I'm talking, if you could, and navigate to that, and go to the emotional screen. And pull that up. So what we see on the emotional screen, which is fabulous, is implicit and explicit. So what does implicit, what is explicit? What is that, right? So what explicit is conscious awareness. We know it. We know what's going on. We're aware of that consciously. Implicit means we are aware of that subconsciously. So an interesting and very important part of this is our subconscious minds. We now know, science all over the world has proven that our subconscious minds know what decision you are going to make up to 10 seconds before you even are aware that you are going to make a decision. Not only is it aware, but it already knows the decision that you are going to make. Isn't that interesting? A lot of scientists now say, is free will an illusion completely? We are really run by our subconscious. So when we look at the emotional profile and we see the explicit and the implicit, knowing the explicit is the conscious and the implicit is the subconscious is where we generate our resources. That's how we solve things. So we want balance because stuff happens. We're going to get whacked in life. It's just part of life. So we are aware of a problem, and we want the subconscious to have enough resources to solve that problem. So what this particular screen shows is, if you look up and down your screen or whatever, you'll see maybe an out of balance one where you have a lot of explicit and very little implicit. So what does that mean? That means that we have a lot of conscious awareness of a problem, but we just can't solve it. It's like, why can't I figure this out? I'm so upset. We just don't know because our subconscious is not generating the resources we need to solve our problems. Conversely, if you have a lot of implicit awareness and very little conscious awareness, how that shows up in real life is, oh man, something's wrong. I don't know what's wrong, but it doesn't feel good. I just don't know what it is. I can't figure it out. And the reason why is because the subconscious is really aware, but our conscious is not online. So balancing the conscious and subconscious, explicit and implicit on this panel is a really, really good thing to do. That's a fabulous thing to do. So that explains that. I want to go next to the Meridian. So I'm just going to kind of go through this, and then I'll tell you how I actually use the Quantum Infinity myself with my clients. And I use clients, or I have this, and I use the Quantum Infinity with my clients both locally and all over the world. I've given workshops and seminars in all kinds of places all over the world. So hopefully most of you are at your Meridian screen currently. So you'll notice, and I can actually use my screen on the deal here now. So I'm going to open up Meridians. Okay, this is it. So let's look at this. This is the one that we're going to look at. This is the Meridian screen. And you can see here, you know, we've got all these deals. Now, anything that's lit up, I'm talking both to beginning users and to more advanced users. So those who are more advanced, just be patient with me, if you would, please. So you can see, I personally am more conservative than a lot of practitioners. I think, and I work with anything over 600. Anything over 600, I do balance it, or under 100, which is kind of an interesting thing, because that's a little less conservative than a lot of people. So here we have bladder 682, and you notice this little eye here, right? Well, there's eyes all the way down, a little bit hard to see here where the liver and gallbladder circle is, but there they are. So this is an example of one of the screens that has the subscreens to it. So if you touch gently one of these little eyes with the circle around it, it'll take you to the next screen. So the next screen if you accidentally touch the wrong thing, which all of us have done, what are you going to get? You're going to get the cross analysis. So what do? You just get out of it and go back here and touch this little dot right here. So then it's going to take you into the next screen, which is really a wonderful representation of acupressure and acupuncture points, along with this wonderful graphic that you made, Karen, and your team, and how fabulous. So this is the urinary bladder number 1, and you can go here, you can see where it's located and all that. So this is the second one. You can balance that. I've already balanced this particular screen, but if you haven't, you just scan on the bottom, and your own things will show up here. So you notice there's still another one. So there's another subscreen. So we're going to look at that. Touch 1, and I touched number 3. What popped up is the urinary bladder meridian number 3, and here are the things that are associated with that meridian, that meridian for everyone. So isn't that great? If you have a headache and you put a pulsing on the urinary bladder meridian number 3, yay! I mean, that's exactly where the spot is that's helpful. And let me just talk for a brief moment about where and why to put the geo harnesses. Geo harnesses are part of the electromagnetic pulsing system that is the quantum infinity. There are 2 systems in every human body, every biologic animal, we'll say, and more complex life forms. And that is the one system is kind of like the knee bone connected to the next bone, but it's like nerves and cells. This neuron is connected to that neuron through a synapse, and that one's connected to that one, and your brain is connected to your little toe through this series of causal things, one to next to the next, and ta-da, there you are. Communication in that system is pretty quick. I mean, if you hit something or you touch something hot, you know it pretty quickly. However, the electromagnetic system, which is the second system, is pretty incredible because it's vastly faster, so much quicker that we almost think, as scientists, we think everything knows it all at once. So when you use your geo harnesses on your wrist, which are actually a wonderful, rich place for your meridians, when you use that and pulse that into your wrist, your whole body knows it at the same time. That's a fabulous, fabulous thing to know. And at the same time, right, we're looking at this from a practical point of view, that's the fact. If you have a stomach ache, like I had a client who's dealing with parasites and things, she just got back from Honduras, and I was working with her yesterday, I took my geo harnesses and I had her put them on the place where it hurts, in her stomach. Kind of made sense to me, and it did work for her too. Now, does it make that much difference given the fact that everything knows it all at once? I don't know. It seemed to work. So there was no adverse problems with that. And I've continued to do that for really since I started using the geo harnesses and the quantum infinity. Another thing, just to digress for a moment, and that's about the geo harnesses. I have very tiny wrists, so for me, the geo harnesses kind of hang like loose jewelry. If that's what you have, you might want to put a cork or a little tiny bottle or something on the top just to pull it because you want it to touch your skin. So that's just an aside. So one of the things too that you'll want that pop up from time to time is, let me see here, the Meridian clock I want to talk about. This is really fabulous. When you go into the Meridian screen, something pops up, a little screen, it says, large intestine, and I can't remember what it is, but this is actually, it works with the Meridian clock, and the Meridian clock basically says every 2 hours, one of your major meridians is using the majority of the energy to renew and restore itself. So knowing that, if you use EFT, and you find something that says, I'm hoping I have it here, is there something here? Ah, ta-da, here we go, time of day, that's what pops up. So we've got time of day, stomach, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., and it's associated with the emotions or the energetic patterns of disgust and greed. You can see that right there. The bladder is also one of the things. You can see bladder, liver, and stomach here is activated. That's the three that's the most out of balance, and that's why these are here. So 3 p.m. to 5 p.m., fright, impatience, and restless, etc. What I suggest, and is very helpful, if you have these issues and you can see they pertain to you, I would take that issue or those issues at that time, and I would use EFT to tap on them. That's a way of using energy medicine in an integrative fashion. It makes it a lot more powerful. Some of these things, like liver, for example, 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., we have to be pretty dedicated to get up at 1 a.m. to do EFT, in my opinion. And you and I both know that energy medicine works extremely well on these things. So you don't necessarily have to get up that early, but this is a really good way to use and take advantage of the ability to supercharge that particular thing. So if anybody wants or needs this or desires this, just, let Karen know or whatever. And I kind of go on, I write a little bit about that here. And I'll be happy to send it to you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Danae. Right.
Okay, absolutely. Are there any questions so far? I want to take some questions.
Sure, let's take a look.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing all that information.
So questions, comments, concerns, or criticisms? I'll take them all.
It's so interesting how people, create their own unique way of using the quantum infinity. Yeah, it's very diverse. I mean, it's great that we all do that because, we have different backgrounds and, different specialties. So, we kind of use panels differently and modalities.
Absolutely.
Any questions yet? Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Danae before she continues? Oh, there's one here. Oh, Susan, hi. Great to see you on the webinar tonight. When are there many points on a meridian when are there many points on a meridian that are off? How do you choose?
When are there? So the question is, what causes many of them to be out of balance? Is that the question?
So. Yeah. How do you choose when there are many points on a meridian that are off? How do you choose?
Okay, I'm going to talk about how to balance these things, and I can go into that now if you would like. Not a problem. What I do, if you look at your Da Vinci screen, for example, down there, as you know, multi-layers down there, and everything that you put in the multi-layer will stay there during all the balancings unless you pull them out. The Balance RX tray, which is on the top, balances what you have there as long as you don't do anything other than drag things there and hit go. Okay, so if you go to another screen or anything like that, you will lose the items you put in the Balance RX. And to begin with, what I do personally is I know that Bruce Lipton and many biologists have noticed, as I alluded to and spoke about earlier, that there are two dynamics. One is health, one is illness, and that is in whether we're in growth, which is we are interacting with the environment, we are moving forward, we're taking in oxygen, we're off, we're getting rid of our toxins, we are connected. That's almost a definition for spirituality on one element or one level. The other thing is illness, and what that is when you're scared or your cell is scared from what we call epigenetic things in a sense. It's a response to the environment, either inside, outside, when you're thinking mean thoughts like, I'm so stupid, how can I do that? Or what a dumb person that is, he just jumped right in front of me, what kind of da-da-da, all that stuff. What happens is that we create lower levels of vibration or lower levels of consciousness, frequency, vibration, whatever you want to use. The result of that is we go into protection, which is the opposite of growth. So protection is where you cut off all of that interaction with the environment. You keep your toxins, they build up, and you start getting sick. So what I think is really, really important is to use that principle in this work. So what I want my clients to do are be relaxed. I want them to be hydrated. I ask them to be hydrated, take a bath, shower before they come in. We'll talk about that in a future time perhaps, why. But anyway, I ask them to take off all metal. I ask them to drink water while they're in my office as well. And I start by balancing their positive things so that I use my energy to create a real safe space for them. I go into a state of mind where I'm not in my ego, but I'm very, very observant. And I'll be happy to share that with anybody who wants to know it too. It's a very simple thing to do. But after I have created a safe place and created a space where they can show up as they are, completely without any judgment at all, as we should be with our cellular communities as well, then their parasympathetic system is able to kick in. That is, they can relax. When they relax, they are in growth. And when they're in growth, this will work better. Balancing works better. So what I do is I balance the positive things. I go into sacred geometry, solfeggio tones. I go into the nogier. You notice that wonderful little swirly thing. I go and I check to see whatever elements need to be balanced there. And particularly, though, the sacred geometry and the solfeggio tones, I drag into the multi-layer RX. Now that, to me, keeping my client in a state of growth not only is good for their body, because stress is very bad, as we know, with all the problems that come with cholesterol and biochemistry and what have you, but when they're able to accept this more, then they'll get quicker and better benefits, and stasis shows up in a diminished way, so they don't go back to the bad way so quickly. And so what I do is I drop those things in the multi-layer tray. I'll do a 2 to 3 minute balancing just of that. Then I leave them there, and as I go through each panel, I put the things I'm going to balance no more than 5. Really, I like 3 to 4, and I'll put those in the Balance RX tray, and I'll hit the MEP. And how I arrange this timing is I take the multi-layer, all the good juju stuff, right, and I'll put it on 1 minute. Then I look at the Balance RX, whatever I got in there, and I put that on 2 to 4 minutes, whatever I think that should be, and you can use your own discernment at that point. Then I'll balance the whole bit there for 6 to 8 minutes, 4 to 6 minutes, depends on how you work with your client. So in the balancing of the acupuncture points, that's a good example of that. I've already got their energetics aligned with staying in growth by keeping those positive things in the multi-layer RX. Then I'll go through the different out of balance points from the acupuncture system, and I will put 3 to 5 in the Balance RX, and I'll run it like I said. So it goes really good stuff, you know, the solfeggio tones and sacred geometry, and then it'll go up to balancing, you know, the bladder, this and the da-da-da-da. Then it'll go back and get back in touch with the solfeggio and sacred geometry and so forth. So that's basically how I run my sessions that way. Are there any, does that answer your question, and are there any further questions along that line?
Susan does have one more question here, actually two.
Okay.
Thank you. These are great questions, Susan, and thank you, Danae, for answering them so wonderfully. How do you choose which to put in the boxes?
You're talking about how do you choose which to put in which tray?
I think yeah, the meridians.
Okay.
Meridian screen,
Okay, so what I do is I look at we'll just start from that. So if you look at the Meridian screen, I'm going to pull that up again. Let's see, where are we? Full subscreens, perfect. So we're at this point, I'm going to say, right? So what we do is we scan, which I've done right here, and I start going down and I start looking for anything over 600. Well, that's not really bad. This number 4 point's not really bad. But what I'll do is I'll hit this information so that I can get the specific issues deal, right? And I'll say, okay, this person has, let me make something up, liver problem. So I'll look at this. It's a little bit about out of balance. So I just I do that, and headache, vertigo, nasal congestion. No, that's not it. But then I also do a cross-reference, and I'll talk about that too. So you can hit or press here, and the cross-reference will come up, And if you look at that, and what will happen is, I would really like to go through this in the next tray, but it's basically you want to, in the cross analysis, you want to put the complaint and check it with whatever it is that you just touched, and it'll give you a numeric value that I'll go over in a while. So basically, you go into these things, and really all screens or the panels are the same. You start looking down, okay, 615, no, that's not it. Cross analysis, which we're going to talk about, no, didn't do. Okay, so I'm not going to add that. So I go down, oh, 655, 655. I'll touch this little thing and I'll see what pops up. No, that's not so much, but 655, I'm going to put that in anyway. If I have a limited amount of time, I will do the cross analysis, because when we're working with one thing, like say we have an upset tummy, and we balance everything in the body, it's going to take a lot longer. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll do a cross analysis on this, and if I get a low value and it doesn't correspond or doesn't really make a difference for the stomach, I'm not going to put it in. So I continue down, oh, 686, oh, that's a biggie, you know, so maybe, maybe not, but 686 I'm going to use. However, again, if I'm in a hurry, I don't want to balance everything in the world, I'll do a cross analysis. Does it fit? Yes, I drag it into the balance RX tray. Does it not? I'll go down further and continue down, because you can scroll down. Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I think she got what I meant. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah, good.
The meridians, when there are many points that are off, there are too many, so how do I choose? No, you answered the question. That was before.
Yeah. Another thing you can do, and this is another option if there are a lot of them that are off balance, if I'm working with myself, I know how to calm myself down. And when I'm working with myself, if I'm have a lot of out of balance things, I may choose not to have the solfeggio and positive things here. I may split the difference. So I'll take the positive things out, although I do start with them. Okay, so I'll do a 3-minute to 5-minute, usually 3-minute balancing here-ish, right? These are ish things. And I'll get those wonderful sacred geometry and solfeggio tones doing particularly. And sometimes the nausea as well. I do like to add that in there. And then I'll take those out. So if I've got 14 of these all out of balance, 14 times divided by 2 is 7. 7 is more than 5, not so good. So I'll go 14 divided by 4 or whatever. So you get what I'm saying. So I'll drop 5 things here. I'll drop 5 things there. Then what I do is I slide this up to about 2 minutes. I'll slide this to 2 minutes, MEP, and then whatever you put for timing here will be multiples of 2 plus 2, because one set is 2 minutes of this and 2 minutes of that. So 2 plus 2 equals 4. So when I choose the timing here, I'm going to choose 4, 8, or 12. That makes logical sense like that. So you just want to add whatever this is, whatever that is together, and this will be multiples of that, so you can get those sets in without cutting something off. Okay, so that's another option to do, and that way you can get through them quicker. If you're, again, it's really helpful to stay as balanced as possible, as calm as possible. So, any other questions?
Oh, thank you so much for explaining that. There are actually Dolores. Hi, Dolores. Dolores is asking exactly how did you, referring to your brother, exactly how did you do the frequencies with your brother? Did he have a device?
This is good, because I love working with people long distance. It's one of the most fabulous things, and I really, really love it, because people get results even in the most amazing of circumstances. So knowing what I know now, I know that the geo harnesses are definitely superior. And why? Because what we're doing is we are working with sound frequencies. We are working with electromagnetic sound frequencies. We can hear them, unless we can't. And in fact, the quantum infinity has some frequencies which are outside of the human hearing. So the limitations of what my brother did, and I will explain that in a moment, there are limitations of using what I asked him to use, which is his earphones, headset, whatever, because earphones and headsets are meant for, designed for, and marketed to you and me to help us hear music, hear frequencies. Well, it won't include those really high and low and very low frequencies, but my brother still had a result. So what I had him do was I told him, I said, go into the bathroom and get some toilet tissue. Get some toilet tissue, put the toilet tissue around the area where, you know, this big bump is, and then just get the, and that's to catch any liquid that came out. That was my intention for that. And then use these little earphone things, which use earbuds, and make it as loud as you can and point it to the center. That's what I had him do. And when he did that, I told him, after I found out that 3 minutes was to, wash out his ear, I advised him to continue to do the same thing every couple of hours for 10 minutes, which he did do. And in fact, he called me the next morning and he said so much liquid came out of his ear that or this bump in front of his ear, that he threw his pillow away. It was that much. And he said literally within 3 days, that huge bump, and I have a picture of it, went down significantly. Like, it wasn't something that children would point and go, oh my gosh, he was able to go to work, and he does work around children without any problems. His hearing came back, and he said, Danae, you're onto something here. Well, thank you, Karen. You and your company's onto something here, and I'm just got to be the guy that picked up the goodies there in terms of kudos for my brother.
Right. Well, thank you. Yeah. And how's your brother doing now, Danae?
He's fabulous. It's all healed. His hearing completely came back. He really lost his hearing for a while. I mean, a short while, like 6 hours or 7 hours, till he started doing this.
Right. Well, adverse effects can be great, because then we know our body is responding and doing what it wants to do naturally, which is just be constantly healing.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's the thing, Karen. What we want to do is help our body. We want to set ourselves and our bodies up to win. We want to set our communities up to win. We want to set our relationships up to win. So how do we do that? We keep this wonderful, amazing quantum identity that we have, this body and what have you, in good balance. So I think that's helpful. Yeah. Any other questions so far?
Yeah, Joanne. Hi, Joanne. Joanne has a question here. You mentioned that we should not put too many frequencies at one time for balancing because it makes the body feel tired. So how much ideally should we use?
That is really that depends on one's own energy system. Some people have weak energy systems. Some people have strong, vibrant, vital energy systems. Now, what I did and what I referred to when I said that is I balanced everything to the maximum. And I mean, it probably took me 3 hours to go through all of it. I mean, there have been times in the past where I thought, if a little bit is good, a lot must be better, right? So this is good, so I'm going to go for it. And it wasn't respectful to my cellular communities. So you kind of have to do it. That's why I say do 5 at a time. When you're first starting, a good thing to do is just to balance the categories. When you go to the main screen, the Da Vinci screen, you can just balance the categories. See how you do. If you've got body systems are out or whatever it is, just drag one to the balance RX and the other to the multi-layer RX and do that. And then if you feel good and you seem fine, then do a couple more. I found my real lack of energy happened after about 3 hours. It just seemed like I just had nothing. So I do have a sensitive system. It's not terribly sensitive, but it is sensitive, as I've come to learn. So it really depends on how well you know your body. But I think the best way to do this is to do it maybe every other day and spend perhaps maybe half hour to 45 minutes balancing whatever you're going to do. So what that does is, when I say that includes dragging and dropping and changing screens, okay? So that's a total of, you turn your Da Vinci screen and the Quantum Infinity on and you start, timer goes then, and you figure it out. So about 45 minutes every other day is a really good, respectful way to your biofield, which we call the aura on here, and your body systems. I think that's safe and it's good and it'll really help you. And when you're doing that, again, talk to your body systems, your cellular communities. This is really true. When you talk to your cellular communities, and I mean out loud, you can do it internally and generate emotion, like generate the feeling of love to your cellular communities as you do these panels. Because what that does, emotion is really a way that we conceive in our minds, in our brain, of a sensation in our body. It's like, how do you know you're hungry? Because you have a sensation in your body. How do you know you have to go to the bathroom? You have a sensation in your body. So when we have an emotion, what we're feeling is the movement of peptides. It's biochemicals that are moving around these meridians. In and of themselves, they're neutral. They mean nothing. But we identify that feeling as anger and that feeling as sadness. Okay? So it's only peptide action that we are actually feeling. So we want to just notice that and know that and talk to our cellular communities and generate that feeling of love and trust. You can trust me now. I'm not going to beat you up anymore. I'm not going to tell you how stupid you are and be that abusive mother or abusive father. You know, build trust with your communities and generate that emotion, and that is fabulous for keeping people in that growth place and your whole biofield too. In 1996, the United States government recognized the word biofield as a representation of the subtle energy field around a human body. So that's really cool. So it's all good.
Yeah, some great research and studies done on that, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So let me quickly, I'm going to just, because we only have 10 more minutes, am I right?
Yeah, unless you want to go over.
Well, I want to respect people's time. That's like very important. So let me just quickly go through these things right here. Okay, so this is the cross analysis thing here. One of the things I wanted to show, this is in the phobias panel, right? So I ran this da-da-da, and then I just picked one, fear of death, and I wanted to put depression just to show people how it is. So I start typing D, E, P, and it's wonderful because these things show up, right? So you can choose one of those. You don't even have to type the whole thing out. You could just touch one of these and ta-da, it goes in there, which is really nice. And so here's the partial, and I pushed it, right? And it shows up down here. So I pushed depression general. So what's the next thing we do? So we've got that. We're going to check it. So we're going to check it by pushing the check button. When you push the check button, it scans, da-da-da-da, up, down, there you go, and it comes out with results. So here's the depression general. We checked it, da-da-da, and here we have a number over 10,000, and 13,707 is very significant. So for sure, this one would be in my Balance RX tray, or if I was working with myself, it'd go in either one. So that's what you want. 10,001 plus anything else should be balanced. So that would be in the cross analysis. So what this tells me is fear of death, that phobia, is very definitely connected with general depression. So I would want to balance that. Now, if we're going to do fear, you feel fearful and you want to balance fear. So, you know, you're doing this thing and your failure thing comes up and it says, you know, 699 is failure. Okay, well, let me see if it works with fear. So you start typing F, E, A, nothing's coming up here. You notice that? R, nothing's up there. So what's up with that? Does that mean I can't balance fear or check that? No, it doesn't. What you need to do, and this is something I found out, it just was easy to do, is to type emotional. So we've got emotional, and notice colon, and then the emotions follow that. So what I did is I typed E-M-O-T, here they all come. So I'm typing on my deal here. So you can scroll up and scroll down to the emotion that you're looking for. So you can see here, fear is right here. So I touch that, no problem. And ta-da, there it is. So you can then check it, and then I don't go too much. I think I go through the step by step here. And here we have a number. So even though failure may have come up as out of balance at 699, when you're actually looking at the issue being fear, it's not really relevant. So I would not put that in. This one here. And then to get out of this, a lot of people that I've been training or working with, you want to come up here and you want to go to the done. Let's see if I have that. No, well, up or X. To get out of the cross analysis, you want to just touch that X, and that'll definitely get you out of there. So that's that. So I hope I didn't go too fast. Spinal energy screen I did want to talk about just briefly. I used to work with a chiropractor in his office, and I was very interested in correlating his experience with my readings on the quantum infinity. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But it was interesting, and I did want to tell you that you can check each one of these spinal things, which does, in fact, correlate with chiropractors and all that when they do in the balancing and alignment of your spine. Here we have, I can't remember which one it was, see, hand, wrist, finger, it'd be somewhere around here. And if you touch that, one of these red ones, which are the most out of balance, it'll say possible disturbance in hand, wrist, finger, adrenal gland, or whatever that is for you. So again, you can check that cross-analysis, see if that's something that works, or if it shows up here and it works, you can put that in the balancing tray. I did want to talk about that. Then the Nosier I did want to touch on too. This is what it looks like. You can see it right here. I like that little swirl. So if you're looking for the Nosier codes, that's where you find it. So that's what you push. And when you push that, you come into another little thing. So do you want to add new items? This is where the panels and what have you, we'll do this maybe in a future how to do this and what that'll benefit you. But also, as you go through these different things, Paul Nogier was a Frenchman who was a scientist and a medical doctor, and he discovered that certain frequencies impacted particular parts of the body, i.e. fluids or thinking ability or bones or that sort of thing. So he came up with those codes, and this wonderful quantum infinity has incorporated those healing codes. If you're not sure, want to know what they are, what do? You push the question mark. That it's like, what? So you push the question mark, in comes this wonderful screen, and it'll tell you what Nogier A is for, what Nogier B, etc. So it gives you really, really wonderful representation and idea of what that is. Now, one of the other things I love about this is the checking stuff. Like you have some vitamin C, does that work for me? So, or my client, whatever. And so what I do is I like using this because it measures, and there's certainly a lot of evidence. I've got all kinds of studies that I've read that from the I think it's 1936 or so, 1925, George Lakhovsky was a French scientist who first noticed this. But anyway, there's a little kind of bar. You can see that, this little darker bar with a little on and off kind of thing here. So what you do is you've got your frequencies in here, or your client's frequencies, and they want to know, is this vitamin C good for me? I want to find out. So you go, okay, fine. So you take the bottle. It's helpful to know what it is, okay? So when you take your cursor and you touch that area with your cursor, your little typing thing here in my iPad comes up, or whatever comes up for you, you want to put the name of the company that makes it, what the name of it is, and what the strength of it is. Okay, that's important. Now, when we go to the next screen, which we're going to check, you're going to push this. But I will say that different companies have better ways or lesser ways than other companies of making certain things, high quality, low quality. So you might have vitamin C, but not all vitamin C is the same for you. So you want to get the vitamin C that's good for you, right? So you go to the next screen by touching that, and this is what pops up. How pretty. Now, the way I used to be, a lot is more. This is different. The more it is, the red is wonderfully a nice color because that means no good. What you want is the pin. Think of this as the target. You want to get right in the middle. So the closer it is to the middle, the more on target you are. And it's fabulous because this is going to scan for how good is this for your mind, for your thinking, for your cognitive skills. How good is this for your etheric field, your biofield, your aura? How good is this for your spirit? Is this going to be helpful? Is this not going to make any difference? And how good is this going to be for your body? So this is fabulous. We touch the scan button like you do with everything else, and it scans it. And here's what comes up here. Now, this particular company in vitamin C, which I take, is fabulous for my mind. It's going to help me think. It's going to help me solve problems. It's going to really be really helpful for that. Etheric field, it's okay. It's not going to hurt it. It's not going to help it that much, but it's okay. Here we have spirit, yes, right on. And the body, again, it's on the helpful side for sure. You can see that. So I like this. This works really well. And then to get out, again, this is where the done screen is. If you don't know how to get out, there it is. See that up on the right-hand side, that you would touch that little done thing, and it will take you out and back to the Da Vinci screen. So that's that. What I do also want to talk about that's I find very helpful is when I have a client, one of the things that clients are really impressed with is how their biofield, what I call a biofield or aura, changes. So instead of going through back and forth and scroll up and let's see what's pink, what's purple, what does that mean, I just simply made this chart. So that was really great. So I can easily hold it in my hand and say, okay, let's look and see what's going on with your biofield. So I scroll down, yellow, blah, 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 and we can kind of look at it together and discover it. So I suggest you do that just because I like to do things the easy way now. My ex-mother-in-law used to have a pillow. If you have nothing good to say about anybody, come sit by me, is what it said. Well, I should have had one that used to say, if you want to know the hardest way to do anything, come sit by me. But I've since changed my way. So doing it the easy way, you have my permission to do it too. Again, I'm happy to share this with you if you're really interested. Now let me talk just briefly about clients and working long distance with clients. When you're in business and you are working with clients for money, there's some things you really need to know, and it's really important for you to know this. The American Medical Association, the cancer societies, all of these groups are extraordinarily powerful, and one might even say completely corrupt. Maybe somebody wouldn't, but I would probably say that. And funny things happen to people, like Raymond Rife, who came up with the Rife frequencies. He suddenly and inexplicably died of a massive overdose of Valium. Now, how did that happen? I don't know. I'm not trying to cast aspersion on anyone, but there's a certain pattern that I've noticed in healers that really have something of value. So I don't want to scare anyone. I just want to say, just like anything else, you want to use common sense and you want to be careful. So here in Texas, for example, I need by law to get my clients to sign a piece of paper giving me permission to touch them. That means if I put the geo harness on their wrist, I need to have permission in writing with their signature saying it's okay for me to touch them. So you just want to find out what are the laws in your state that you are working on and work within those laws. The other thing is you want to be careful about how you speak. That is really important. And right now, the FDA, the AMA, they are combing websites to find people who are using medical words, the dreaded, you're not allowed to say these things. And what are some of those words? Treating people. Treating people is, or treatment, or diagnosing, or any of, those are medical words and they're sacred. So we want to be creative and kind of play with it and come up with our own languaging. Like we are not medical people, we are educators. We are using feedback. We're teaching the body how to correct itself using quantum feedback. That's okay. So you want to look and be careful about that. And so going back to working with people in business, wherever they are, what I do, and this will help answer the question earlier, how did I get the picture, how did I get the voice thing? I didn't know how to do that, but my brother did have a phone that he could record his voice on. Now, we have a lot of iPhones, Androids, whatever. There is a recorder built into them, voice memo or whatever it is on your phone. What I do is I have people record no more than 7 seconds, starting with A-E-I-O-U. Now, I said that quickly, but the voice spectral analysis really does better if you can have them enunciate those letters. So instead of A-E-I-O-U, I feel fine and good, you would have them say something like A-E-I-O-U. I feel happy and whole and well, blah, 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 whatever. And do they need to get it all in before it goes away? No, they don't really. I'm just telling you what I have found. Karen, you can certainly give your input here if you feel. But what I found, it's looking for patterns. It's going to read your voice with 17,000 different algorithms, which is fabulous, and correlate on that. So using the voice memo, you can easily email that or send it via text. And then what I do is I just played my telephone. That's what I do with my brother. I had him record that and send it to my phone. Then I held my phone right in front of the iPad, which I use. That's where I have my Quantum Infinity, where the microphone is, and I just push play. I put the record on the when I started, where you record your voice. So it's like push record and then push play at the same time. And I recorded it. So because this also is a quantum tool, you want a selfie right now, not the nice one they put on Facebook or they send to their lover in Pago Pago. You want them to take a picture of where they are, what they're doing right now. So I had my brother do that. He just took a selfie and an MP3 file, sent them to me, and that's what I worked with. I had him write a textual affirmation. And oftentimes with my clients, whatever they say as their affirmation or positive affirmation when they're doing the AEIOU, I will often use that, and I'll just type what they say where it says the positive or the affirmation and the textual addition. And when you do that, you probably already know, but I'm just going to tell you that you use all lowercase and you separate sentences with 2 spaces. Is that right, Karen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So that's an important thing too. You want to get the most you can out of that. So that's 5 minutes over. I don't want to go any more than that. There's certainly a lot more to talk to, and maybe Karen will have me talk to you about something else sometime, but it was wonderful talking to you all. And I'm very helpful if I can be. I'm very busy, but I would love to share any of this stuff that you've seen. If you want it, let me know through Karen, and I will get it to you. Okay,
Sure.
Karen, you're on.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was such great information and very helpful with the way you use the Quantum Infinity to all of us. I mean, it's so interesting to see, the differences, and very unique way. And there are some more questions here. Dr. John Char's on. Hi, John. And has a question. Have you grouped specific categories in the Da Vinci according to the chakra levels in the balance and multi-layer?
Yes, I think of that as a more advanced way to do it, and I think that's a fabulous way to do it. Again, when I do that though, I like to keep it to about 3. That's my preference. I've noticed the most response with that. And you could do 3 in the balance RX and 3 in the multi-layer RX too. But similar frequencies are like harmonics. If you hear somebody doing a cappella or a band doing a cappella, it sounds good, and it's the same thing in the body. It just kind of it resonates without too much cacophony. So you're being kind in a sense by being mindful, and that's wonderful, John. That's good insight. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I just wanted to mention, Dr. Chine, thank you also for all that you've contributed to the Quantum Infinity, right since 2010. Dr. Cha was very instrumental and provided so much information. I mean, probably at least 80% of what we have with the Quantum Infinity came from Dr. Cha.
What an honor to have you on the call. Thank you.
Thank you. So we do have a couple more questions here, if everybody's good with that. Are you good with that, Dr. Dillon?
Yes, I'm okay.
Okay. So regarding the cross analysis, what do you put in the cross analysis for the meridians to test if that is what we need to put in them if that is what we need to put in the multi-layer?
Okay, so when we look at the bottom, let me just go on my little trusty guy here. So if you are testing, I'm just going to have to make something up here. If you have a sore throat, I suppose, and Actually, could you ask me that question again? I wasn't real clear on what the question was.
You may have actually answered this, because I think it was a question away. It was back about 5 back from the end. What do you put in the cross analysis for the meridians to test if that what is needed to put in the multi-layer?
Okay. Well, I think I did answer that. And that is when you have something out of balance, you want to see if that particular thing that is out of balance is associated with the complaint that you are working on. So when you enter the quantum infinity, I have found that it's better if you work on one or two related things, kind of like Dr. Cha was alluding to there. You don't want to get everything and complaint that you have ever had in your life, and you just feel miserable, and oh yeah, plus I've got plus I've got a sore throat. You don't want to do that. You want to keep one or two things. And the same thing, that simplicity of honoring your body without overcrowding it, is think of these frequencies as voices, if you will, just for the sake of argument. So if you have a meridian that is out of balance, uh, again, you can certainly bring like kinds of things together, but I'm getting lost here. I think that
Right.
you just want to see if you bring the cross analysis up and make sure that your complaint is related to whatever meridian or meridian point that you're working with.
Thank you. I love your analogy there with the frequencies having voices, being the voice.
That's true.
I think, does anybody have any last questions for Dr. Dene? No, I think we're good. Thank you so, so much.
Yes, I just want to say right now, in this moment, just to have a blessing, because there is no time and space continuum in real life. It's just a man-made construct. So just in this moment, I just want you to focus inward and generate a feeling of love, even if it's small, and just let that grow, and just imagine, using your imagination, your intention, and your attention, and just send it out into the world so that all of us are connected right now, and feel that. And as you send that out, accept all the love and all of those positive frequencies that are coming to you right now. Just for like 10 seconds, let's do that. Is that all right with you, Karen?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Beautiful.
Okay, let's just do that for 10 seconds. That's right. Okay, that's 10 seconds. And think of that as our own harmonic voice of all of our spirits joined. So thank you, Karen, for letting me do that.
Oh, thank you. What a wonderful way to raise our vibration. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us tonight.
Well, thank all of you, and thank you, Karen, for having me on. I look forward to serving, and that's what we do, is we help each other. So here we are.
Thank you. And if it's okay with you, Dr. Dene, to send, if you can send me your presentation or whatever you're happy to share, I can send it out to everybody that was on the webinar tonight.
I can. And also, I will send you a link if you want to look at the original little video that I put together. It's in a Dropbox thing, so I'll send that link to you as well, so you can share that if you wish.
Oh, great. Thank you. Oh, and Joanne asked here if she would love to get the auric chart that you shared too.
Okay. All right. I'll definitely forward that to you. How about if I forward that to you too, and then you can pass that on.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and blessings to all.
Blessings. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Take care.